Northampton win to set up a repeat of last year's semi-final. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. Northampton progress to a second semi-final on the bounce, and they're going to Dublin to play Leinster again, just like last year. Now, if they get as close as they did last year, maybe they're going to have that little bit extra to get themselves over the line this time. But let's talk about this game. So Saints, a lot of possession early on, working into the 22, close to the line. Castres get over the ball, win a penalty. They tap, they look to go quick, nothing on, so they end up just booting the ball downfield. And, the rest of the team not too happy because they could have just kicked the penalty down the field and actually had possession. We then have a stoppage for treatment to Hendy, who has to go off injured. He can't continue. Look like maybe a bad injury for him. So again, we had a few bad injuries this weekend. I wish everyone that has, even minor injuries, all the way up to some of the poor ones that we've seen this weekend. Wish everyone quick recovery from those, because never like to see any players getting injured. We then have a Timo check on the tackle, but there's no foul play involved. Saints then come again. Great interchange out wide right. Freeman with a stutter step. Then he goes again, finds Furbank, who gives it back to him, and he goes over to score, converted for 7 points to 0. And the try came from a turnover at the line out, poor line out from Castres. Then Castres win a penalty on halfway, and Fernandez strokes it over for 7 points to 3. Saints though come forward again, nice little kick in behind, and Langdon controls it with his shin before going over to score. Converts and miss, 12 points to 3. Then they go to the corner from penalty, battering away at the line, but Castres turn it over and kick clear. But it is a little bit too much one-way traffic at this stage, and Saints almost over again. Who is it? Kennedy. He juggles with the ball down the sideline. Then Baget puts in a covering tackle that forces his leg into touch, but there's head contact. Penalty to Northampton. The referee said there was no penalty try because it wasn't in the act of scoring, but it was bloody close. Then Northampton force another penalty. Finn Smith popped that over for 15-3. Castres then work it up to the line, and they're close, and actually so close we have a TMO check, and it's confirmed that Fernandez has scored. He converts his own try, 15-10, but that's pretty much as close as Castres get in the game. Nakarawa infringes. He goes to the bin, perhaps a little harsh on him there. He wasn't too pleased going off, most players aren't, but I think he had a bit of a case. Northampton go to the corner, go to the tail, but then they pop it down to Pod in the middle of the line out, and Coles goes over to score. Conversion missed, 20 points to 10. Castres then win a penalty on the stroke of half time. Fernandez makes it 20-13 at the break, and they're still in the game, but Northampton should be well ahead. Then into second half, Fernandez kicks a brilliant 50-22, and Castres have a good position early in the half. They win a penalty, and Fernandez makes it 20 points to 16. And, coming back again, but, they can't get that extra score to go ahead. Saints then work it back up to the line. Furbank goes over to score, but we have a TMO check that comes to absolutely nothing. It was about players hardly involved, a possible head contact that we saw from a million different angles, and they ruled that it wasn't. So that it had nothing really to do with the try. So the try stands, converted for 27-16. Furbank then puts in his try-saving tackle on Papi Leahy down the other end. Mitchell then breaks the line into 22 and puts Pollock over to score. That's converted from 34 points to 16. And you feel like that should be it. But I think not long after this, Furbank has to go off, and he's just come back from a broken arm, and he was kind of holding his arm kind of weird as well. long before he went off. So hopefully again, he's okay. We then have around the handbags. Gaillot goes to the bin for no arms clear out, and Pollock that started the whole melee. And then who is it? Guro Galasson, he joins him, and so does Maya Navanua, because the two of them escalated. So it ends up 14 for Saints versus 13 for Castres for the next 10 minutes. Saints then come forward again, moving it into 22. They have 2 men over out left, but the pass basically goes in between the two of them to ground. They lose momentum and allows Castres to eventually clear. Back comes Saints though, and Mitchell sends Pollock over again. Pollock then, he goes in behind the posts, and he's standing right near the dead ball line, and he delays until a Castres player comes over to put it down. The things you might see maybe in a sevens game, right, where to them it is all about being at 1 score ahead and using up as much of the clock as possible. But it's converted over 41 points to 16. But if Pollock keeps that kind of thing up, he's going to be on one of those compilations of players who blew certain tries, because it's not a good, it's fine when nothing bad happens out of it, but when it does and it costs him big in a game, he's going to hear about it. But then Smith lands a penalty to make it 44 points to 16, and then finally Northampton off the top of the line out on the edge of the 22, and Pearson goes straight through a gap and over to score, converted for 51 points to 16, and that was full time. Right, so we're going to have a look at the stats, and then we'll chat a little bit about each of the teams. So let me pull those up here. Okay, so then we just refresh it. So tries was 7 tries to 1. And as I said, Northampton should have been home and clear really in the first half. Then on attack, 575 meters made to 256, and 198 carries to 75. So Northampton keep hold of the ball a lot. Clean breaks then 15 to 5, and then defenders beaten 29 to 15. So about a 1 and 2 conversion for Saints and 1 and 3 for Castres, and then offloads 12 to 8, passes 209 to 60, and then this really does reflect Northampton's dominance: 66% possession to 34 and 69% territory to 31. So you can see why they should have probably had the game out of sight earlier. Tackles made then 67 to 177. 74% tackle percentage for Northampton is kind of okay at this level, not the best. And then 78% is decent from Castres, but when they're not offering much else around the field, it wasn't enough to keep them in touch. Turnovers 1, then 7 for Northampton and 10 for Castres, but we heard, I guess it's inevitable, right? An English commentary team, so heard a lot more about the turnovers that Northampton won, especially Pollock. On to the set pieces then. Line out, 17 to 12, and 100% for Saints. That's going to be very good for them going into next week. 75% for Castres, and as I said, one of Northampton's tries just came off a misfiring, Castres line out. Then a scrum, 5 to 2, and 100% for Saints and 50% for Castres. Scrum didn't have a huge effect on the game though, honestly. Kicking then, 24 kicks to 20. Saints kicking for 830 meters to 643. And again, it just hammers home that point that I keep making about the fact that the teams who attack the most and kind of produce the quote unquote prettiest rugby, right, also kick the ball more and kick longer. I don't know why more people don't make that correlation. They just complain about kicking when a game is boring, but they don't see the kicking when a game like this where their team is scoring tons of tries. Retained kicks then 4 to 6, and onto the breakdown then. Rooks won 106-43. Rooks lost just 1 for the Saints, so very good ball security there, and 5 lost for Castres. Given how few Rooks they'd won, like that is a big swing as well. And then Rook success 94% for Saints, 86 for Castres. You look at it and you think, 86 not that bad, but you look at any other team, and they're always somewhere in the 90s. So 86 is pretty poor. It's one of these ones where, a couple of percentage points is actually a big gap, because most teams are up there, in the 90s, and getting not 100%, but getting towards 100%, like 98 would be excellent. Turnovers won then 7-10. We talked about that already. Maul totals 4-8. And Maul meters game 4 and 8. But again, I don't really trust the stats on here, because either it's very rare that it if ever it says that a team made more Maul meters than the number of mauls it had, which doesn't make sense for teams that have really good mauls. Onto discipline then. Penalties conceded 16 for Northampton, 18 for Castres. Like, it's crazy, but it didn't feel like it. Like, there were periods for treatment and stuff, but it didn't feel like a very stop-start game, because Northampton were going quick. So when we were playing, the pace was high. But yeah, like 34 penalties in the game is pretty crazy. Yellow cards then 1 for Northampton and 3 for Castres, but it wasn't just the yellow cards that was the problem for Castres. I think that was more a symptom of everything else that was going wrong for them. Okay, so those are our stats. Let's talk about the teams. So let's start with Castres. So they were looking to make the a first semi-final. They're not a team with huge pedigree in Europe, especially at this level, and it maybe showed a bit today as well that when they got back close, they couldn't produce muster anything else to get themselves ahead. And that's what you need to do in these games, right? Is you've got to get nudge that little bit ahead, and then make the other team chase the game. But they were always the one chasing, and they never caught back up to Saints. And the fact that we saw with Munster as well, Munster's line-out was much worse, but their set piece, line-out especially, didn't go as well as they would have expected. Defending well at times, but again, not offering enough in attack as well. And then, in the second half, Saints just pulled away from them. Like, they did well to kind of come back a couple of times, but always, still that one score behind. But again, it's one of these things where if they can take this and kind of build on it for next season and the season after, and keep getting back to the knockout stages, then it's going to stand them in good stead. And that's what teams really would be looking to do. They're not looking to come in and go an amazing. Well, obviously you hope, but if you're realistic, you're not looking to come in and suddenly just blow everyone away. Your first time coming through, properly through the knockout stages. And you look at Saints. They made a semi-final last year. They've got back there again, and now they want to go at least one step further and make a final, and hopefully lift the trophy as well themselves. But that's been a multi-year journey for this Saints team as well, And talking about Saints, so first half, get themselves ahead. They're not taking as many chances as maybe they should or they could, but they're still maintaining their lead and staying ahead, and that's what you need to do in knockout rugby. And then in the second half, then when the game kind of loosened up a little bit, especially when it was 14 versus 13, they were finding more space, and they put the points on that really stretched them away in the end. So a decent win for them. And the focus now is that semi-final against Leinster. Can they correct the mistakes of last year? Can they put more pressure on Leinster this year? Because last year really was only in the closing minutes, that they started to properly put Leinster under pressure. And then you could see Leinster were creaking and Saints almost did it, So if they can apply that pressure earlier in the game, maybe get themselves ahead and make Leinster chase the game, because Leinster are not really good at chasing games, especially in the second half. That's really where their route to the final, I think, is. But it's going to take a lot of heart from this. They're going to be obviously worried about the likes of Furbank, who went off injured, but there were a lot of players in good form. And I think compared to the other English teams, who've gone over or come over to Dublin, to play Leinster in this competition this year, that Northampton offer more than those teams. They got more of a rounded game. It's not just about flashbacks, although they do have a lot of really good backs. They have the pack to go with it as well, and that could be kind of a trump card for them. Not saying that Leinster don't have a pack, but the way generally to beat Leinster is win collisions, bully their pack, and take away their set piece. And I think Northampton, compared to Quins, Bath and Bristol, who all played Leinster this year in the competition, they're in a better position to do that than those, I think, with the pack that they have. But for now, congratulations getting to the semi-final. Commiserations to Castres, and again, anyone who got injured in the game, best of luck with the recovery. Okay, so that's it for me. Let me know what you think down in the comments.